hi everybody, my name is Pim. Today I want to yap with you about all of the books that I've read in 2024. I had this whole period in September where I literally forgot that it was 2024 and I kept writing 2023 on my artworks. That was really smart of me. Anyways, so I love watching these types of videos where people just sit and yap about books. So I thought I would make a little tier list and rank all of the books that I've read. Alright, so let me introduce the tier list because of course it's DanAndPhil theme, because what other theme is there, right? So we have the top tier, which is this is the creme de la creme. This is top tier. This is it. Then the second tier, which is just below that, is
this was the most fun I've ever had.
Which is like, it's a really good book. It's a classic. I love it. I will keep loving it. It didn't like blow my mind and it didn't change my life, but it's a really, really good book. Then we have
What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? Well, what can I say?
Which is like, it was good. What can I say? It was fine. It was pretty nice. I liked reading it, but then that was it. Then the fourth tier, we have
Real horror is,
which is like, the book kind of sucked, but it wasn't that bad, but it also kind of sucked, but I'm not like hating on it. And then we have the bottom tier, which is
we have decided to go on a break from the gaming channel,
which is the worst thing ever. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to read these books. I highly doubt, because I haven't planned this at all. I made the tier maker and then I put fairy lights on my couch and then I sat down. So I have not prepared this at all. So I am not too sure that I will be putting any books into the bottom tier, but it has to be there, you know? Like, you have to know what the bottom of the bottom is. I mean, I have taste, so most of the books are pretty good. Okay, so the first book that I read this year is American Gods. Now, we are not going to be talking about the author because I watched Good Omens for the first time this year in October, I think, because of reasons. Yeah, so the author is, this is American Gods. But I did read this book and I will be reading other He Must Not Be Named books because I want to read Good Omens because people said that it was like the first book. I'm talking about Good Omens. I'm supposed to be talking about American Gods. This video is gonna take forever. Anyways, American Gods. I thought it was pretty good. It was the first book that I read of this author. I thought it was quite interesting. It was kind of surreal. It could have been a bit shorter. It was like, it was pretty good. So I think I will be putting this book into, what can I say?
What can I say?
It's not the worst. It's not the best book I've read. I think it's like 3 stars out of 5. Then the next book that I read, absolute banger. Picture of Dorian Gray. I think everybody should read this. I picked up this copy from the Shakespeare and Company in Paris last October and I was so excited to read it because I've read classics, but most of the classics just don't really hit. But this one was like, I loved it a lot. I 100% agree with people who say they liked it. I'm not really, this is not, I need to give some better opinions. I 100% agree with people who put this book in the classics list, you know? It's kind of weird, it's kind of mesmerizing. I love it when main characters are like assholes, and Dorian Gray is an asshole. So I just really like that because I don't like knowing assholes in my real life for obviously, but I just really like reading about them. And this was kind of like with a hint of fantasy as well, which I really, really liked. There's like one character that yaps a lot in this book, and sometimes I appreciated it, but sometimes I kind of didn't. But other than that, I thought it was really, really good. So I'm gonna put this in Phil Lesser, You're a Genius, because Oscar Wilde, you're a genius. Alright, so next I read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This was on my physical TBR. I think I just kind of stole it from my parents' house, to be honest. I liked it, but I haven't grown up with Alice in Wonderland, so I think it missed like the nostalgic factor for me. So I don't really know where to put this. Like, it was good, but it wasn't like, I can't really remember it because I just kind of, it's mixed up with everything I know about Alice in Wonderland. So it was like, okay, yes, I know this story, but like if you already know the story and then you read the book, it's like, I don't know. So I'm just gonna put this in what can I say, just because I don't know what to say. Okay, so next I read nonfiction, which is scary. I got this book from my best friend. It's a Dutch book about comics, because I got kind of into comics, graphic novels. I was kind of exploring if that is something that I wanted to be doing. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was amazing. I'm just gonna put it in the real horror is because I got stressed out by thinking about all of the options that graphic novels are and how much work they take. So, yes, that is it. It's like not a bad book, but it just wasn't like, okay, next. Okay, so this is A Crooked Field. I don't really know why I have this book. I think it's just because I like the cover. I think the cover is pretty. I think I saw this and I was like, I want to read this for the aesthetics. I have no idea what it's about, but I kind of want to read it. And it was interesting, but also a little bit boring. I'm just gonna put it in the real horror is because it was like yeah, okay. This book, this one, oh, it was so good. If We Were Villains by Emil Rio, it's so good. The Secret History is one of my favorite books ever. I am probably gonna be making a video about like my favorite books ever. I love The Secret History. I've read it I think twice at least in the past year. Or like not the past year but the year before that, but anyways. This is so good. It's basically The Secret History but with Shakespeare and I love that. No notes. This is Phil Lester, you're a genius. Like, 5 stars, 10 out of 10. We love this book. Would definitely recommend reading this.
Completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender.
The next book is Jane Eyre, which I actually lent to my sister. I was kind of surprised by this book because it's a classic, so my expectations, which is maybe kind of weird to say, but my expectations are pretty low for classics. Like, I don't know, I just put my expectations low and then I can be pleasantly surprised, and that's exactly what happened with this book. It was funny. Jane Eyre is so snarky, which was just really fun to read. Like, I really enjoyed this book. I don't think it like changed my life, so I'm gonna put this in, this was the most fun I've ever had, because it was the most fun I've ever had. But it wasn't like genius, but it was really fun to read. So if you want to read like a classic and be like, yeah, I read Jane Eyre, I would definitely recommend it. Alright, so the next book is The Road. The only real reason that I read this is because one of my favorite booktubers, Sean McComb, he said that he started this book, I believe, and then he didn't finish it. And whenever somebody says that, I'm like kind of curious, especially if it's a book like this that's like pretty popular and everybody's like, oh, you should really read The Road. I wasn't blown away by it, I think mostly because it's a little bit dry. But yeah, it's just a little bit like, I get the concept, but then I feel like he didn't play enough with the concept. I don't know, I was missing a little bit of humor or like something to make it really interesting. I think it's a, what can I say, like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't, I don't know, yeah.
What can I say?
The next book is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I think I like it, but I also think I don't understand it yet. So I feel like it's kind of like The Catcher in the Rye, which I read once and then I was like, okay, I think this is a good book, but I'm not there yet. So I need to read it again when because I know the vibes now. So I know when I'm craving a book like this. And then when I'm craving it, I'm gonna read it and then I'm gonna love it. Like that's kind of how I feel about it. But I don't love it right now because I feel like I don't fully understand it yet. But it was good. So I'm gonna put it in the most fun I've ever had. Again, because I haven't thought that much about this book after I've read it, and that's always like a sign for me. If I want to reread the book within 3 months of reading it, that means that it's like changed my life, and this just didn't really do that. But I know that I'm gonna reread this someday, but not now. Okay. This is my magnum opus. Actually, wait, I need to... Wait. It's fanfiction, all the young dudes. I drew the covers for these a while back, and I know that it's like illegal to sell fanfiction, right? But I was like reading all the young dudes, and of course like everybody, I read it in like 2 weeks, and then I got obsessed with it, like the whole internet. But then I made fan art, and I was like, why don't I just get them somewhere? Because I found a PDF with, you know, the whole thing in like a layout, and I had to do it. So for those of you who don't know, this is a fan fiction about the Marauders. So like, you know, Harry Potter's father and Remus Lupin, the werewolf guy, and Sirius Black, who are all characters in Harry Potter. And it's from the perspective of Remus, and it follows him through his journey at Hogwarts, so from his first year to his 7th year, and then it goes into the war. And it's so good. If you like characterization and romance and angst and a lot of different themes and humor, read these. So yeah, this is definitely going into Phyllis, You're a Genius. The next book I've also lent to my sister, and it is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow. Now, my opinion on this book, I have heard so many good things about this. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be great. Like, I'm really looking forward to reading this. And then I read it and I was kind of like, oh. I think it's, for me, the characters kind of feel boring or like a little bit flat. I think as a creative, it's just maybe less interesting to read, because I feel like if you're not really used to the creative process or you don't really know much about it, then it's like really fun to read that, right? But for me, it just kind of like, okay, that's like my daily life. And then it wasn't, for me, groundbreaking enough to like really chase it. So I'm actually gonna put this in. Because I don't really know what to say. It just wasn't for me. I get that people like it. It just wasn't for me. The next one, my dad is actually currently reading. It is The Three-Body Problem. I really enjoyed this book. It's apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy, and it's written by a Chinese author, and I think his take on this whole idea is just interesting. Like, I think white people have had so much to say, or like have said so much and have written these stories so often that it kind of becomes one thing. Like, it's all kind of morphs into one type of story, and it kind of gets boring after a while. So reading a sci-fi apocalyptic book but through like a totally different culture and like with a different background was just really refreshing. Like, it was really nice. And the plot twist was great as well. So I'm gonna read the whole series, I think. I will be putting this actually in Phyllis, You're a Genius, because this deserves 5 stars, and I can't put it in the most fun I've ever had because I devoured this book. Okay, so the next one, it's Hamnet, and this book kind of surprised me. I really liked it. It wasn't what I expected. It's about the son of Shakespeare, but it's not really about Shakespeare. Like, I think Shakespeare's name isn't even mentioned, but I really liked the way that time was portrayed through this book, and the characters, and like the period felt really real. So I recommend this one. I think I'm gonna put it in the most fun I've ever had. Maybe I will grow to love this book, but it was just really good, and that's it. The next book is A Day of Fallen Night. Now, I am a Pride of the Orange Tree lover. I love that book so much, and I'm always scared for a prequel or a sequel of a really good book, because if a book is good, I just want it to stay good and I don't want to have it like ruined. So this was scary to read, but then in August I got COVID, and then I spent a week reading this, and it was like the perfect book, because if it sucked, like, I could just kind of blame it on the COVID. That sounds so stupid now, but it was kind of like my thought process. I was like, I need a book that I'm like not too hyped for, but that I don't want to read. But I really like this. I don't think it's as good as Pride of the Orange Tree, but I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like more of the same, but different, but more of the same. I'm gonna put this in the most fun I've ever had. Okay, so the next book I also don't own a physical copy of yet, but I am gonna buy one. It is Atonement. And this one was just really good. I loved it a lot. I think the writing was great, the plot was great. I hated the main character, which was great. It was just really good. No notes. This is a really, really good book. It's a classic. The movie's also really good. I'm gonna put this in Phil as You're a Genius. I really, really like this one. I can't put it any lower than that. I think I would go insane. Alright, next we have my favorite author ever, which is Rainbow Rowell. She released a new book called Slow Dance. I read it, I liked it. I do think that it's more like her Landline and Attachments books. I've read all of her books, which I liked. I like her writing, but the characters are like a little bit older in this, so it can be interesting to read, but I'm 23, so I don't really relate to them that much. So I still enjoyed it because I just really, really like Rainbow Rowell's writing, but I wasn't like in love with it. And also I didn't really think about it that much. So I think it is a what can I say? Even though it's my favorite author, I think it's like a type of book that you should just read and have fun with, and then it's just fun and that's it. But I wasn't like obsessed with it. Next book, The Hobbit. Classic, love this book. And I was doing a course on the medieval epic, which is also very Tolkien adjacent. So I just wanted to get into this mood and read The Hobbit. It was just for fun. I've already read it before, so it was a reread and I liked it the first time. Yeah, so I'm gonna put this in Phil as You're a Genius because this book is so fun. If I ever have children, I will read these as a bedtime story. It's so, so cute and so fun. Okay, so yes, I read this book when it came out. I thought it was really good. I'm not somebody that struggles with mental health a lot, but I do have people around me who struggle with it, as probably everybody does. I just think it's really good. It's Dan, first of all. He just gives really good tips. It's also really funny, like it's just great. I'm not really an audiobook reader, but somebody on Twitter said they were listening to the Spotify audiobook. So yeah, I listened to it, and I think it's really fun to also listen to it in Dan's voice. Because when I read it in Dan's voice, right? But yeah, it was kind of nice to listen to it as well. So definitely recommend. I think there's no other place to put this than Phil as You're a Genius because it's just really, really good. Last but not least, Carry On. This is my favorite book ever. I actually have 3 copies of it. I have this one, which is like my hardcover sturdy. This is the book that I like pick up when I actually read the book. I have one that is this type of cover, but it's like paperback, so that's the one that I lend out because this is the book that I get so excited about that all of my friends who hear about it, they're like, oh, I'll read it, and then, you know, I have to lend it to them, but then, or loan it to them. I don't know how English works. But then I want to also have my own copy for when I want to read it. And then I have like my very first copy for like when the first 7 times that I read it, and it is a paperback, so it started like falling apart a little bit, and it's also not a cover that I love, so I want to preserve that as like a sentimental book, like sentimental object, but I wanted to have one that I could always read. And honestly, sometimes both of these I loan, so sometimes they're just both gone. Everybody loves Carry On. If you like Harry Potter and you were kind of angry at how Rainbow Rowell tackled the story, and at the end of the 8th book you were kind of like, okay, but Harry is like traumatized, why is he fine? Read this book. It is so good. It's a criticism of these types of stories, of like chosen one stories. If you're interested in it, I did an analysis video because I did a presentation on it for uni, and I chat about this book for 20 minutes. So if you want to read it, it's so funny, it's so good. The story is great, the plot is great, the characters are great. This is the book of all books. There's also a 2nd and a 3rd part. It's a trilogy, which are also really, really good. But if you don't want to read the series, I think this is also a very good standalone book. Also, Baz. Yeah, I don't think I even need to say it's in Phil as You're a Genius. Like, that's, yeah. Alright, so that is my finished tier list for all of the books that I read in 2024. I hope you liked it. As you can see, I read a lot of good books, which was also my goal for this year, because the years before that I read a lot of bad books, so I didn't want to do that anymore. So yes, that was this video. I have no idea when I'm uploading next because I'm honestly just having fun. I am really active on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram though, mostly Twitter, because I'm mainly a fan artist, like I make fan art. So if you want to follow me on there, go check it out. And I also have an Etsy shop, by the way, which I really love doing. So if you wanna like check out some fan art or some stickers, I sell some stuff on there. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! I'm going insane.
Oh!